Meet Rick Sanchez, the smartest man in the universe, who's also died more times than anyone should. Being a genius doesn't make you immortal. It just makes your deaths more brutal. Today, we're counting down the top 10 most gruesome ways Rick has met his end. Trust me, these deaths will give you nightmares. Number 10. The Death Loop Torture. Rick dies repeatedly as he tries to get home, getting shot, torn apart by aliens, and caught in explosions, all while maintaining full memory of each death. But here's what makes it worse. Each dimension he lands in is slightly wrong. The colors are off, his family acts weird, or something just feels fundamentally broken about reality. Imagine dying over and over again, remembering every moment of agony, while never quite making it back to where you belong. It's psychological torture disguised as a sci-fi plot device. The repetitive trauma would drive anyone insane, but Rick just treats it like a particularly annoying puzzle to solve. Each death becomes more painful than the last because he knows exactly what's coming. The burning sensation of laser wounds, the crushing weight of falling debris, the suffocating panic of drowning in alien atmospheres. Yet he can't stop the cycle, trapped in an endless nightmare of his own making. Number 9. The Philosophical Death. Perhaps Rick's most painful death is ongoing, the slow erosion of his humanity throughout the series. Whenever he chooses science over family, abandons a dimension, or treats people as disposable, another piece of who he used to be dies. The tragedy is that Rick is smart enough to recognize what's happening to him, but too damaged to stop it. He knows he's losing his humanity, but he's convinced himself that emotions are weaknesses. It's like watching someone perform surgery on their own soul. We see glimpses of the man he used to be, moments where his mask slips and genuine emotions break through, but each time he rebuilds those walls higher and thicker. Number 8. The Toxic Rick Deterioration. Sometimes the most painful deaths aren't physical. When Rick splits himself at an alien spa, creating healthy and toxic versions, Toxic Rick slowly deteriorates mentally and physically. He becomes paranoid, violent, and desperately unstable when he realizes he can't exist without his other half. Watching him lose his mind and identity is more brutal than any explosion. When the Ricks merge back together, Toxic Rick ceases to exist. The death of an entire personality is a unique kind of horror. Toxic Rick represents all of Rick's worst impulses, his cruelty, his selfishness, his destructive tendencies. But he's also the part that feels pain, that remembers loss, that carries the weight of Rick's trauma. Number 7. The Clone Massacre. When Rick transfers his mind into Tiny Rick to hunt vampires at school, the teenage clone's brain starts overriding his original personality. Rick's solution? Kill multiple clones of himself at various ages to prevent a takeover. We see him destroying baby Ricks, child Ricks, and adult versions of himself. Each clone has Rick's memories and consciousness, meaning he's committing suicide and infanticide simultaneously. The psychological horror of murdering children who happen to be yourself would break anyone else. But what's even more disturbing is how casually Rick approaches this mass murder of himself. He's so disconnected from his own humanity that killing multiple versions of himself barely registers as significant. Number 6. The Wasp Rick Horror. Thanks to Operation Phoenix, when Rick dies, his consciousness uploads into a clone body. But when Hologram Rick gets attacked by Wasp Rick, things get absolutely disgusting. Wasp Rick doesn't just sting him. He injects eggs directly into Rick's eye. Then, baby Wasp Ricks burst out of his face like something from the movie Alien. It's the kind of death that makes you instinctively cover your own eyes while watching. The horror of being killed by a monstrous version of yourself is bad enough, but having insects explode out of your eye socket? That's pure nightmare material. Number 5. The Simple Rick Factory Death. The Citadel of Ricks contains perhaps the most horrifying concept in the entire series. Simple Rick, a version of Rick who chose family over science and lives in blissful ignorance, while other Ricks harvest his happy memories to make candy. When Simple Rick finally dies, it's not from violence or an experiment gone wrong. He dies from the slow realization of what's been done to him, the crushing weight of understanding that his happiness was artificial and exploited. The death of innocence is often more brutal than the death of the body. This death shows us what our Rick could have been: happy, content, loving, and makes his current state even more tragic. Number 4. The Pickle Rick Psychological Death. While Pickle Rick is often seen as a comedy episode, it actually contains one of Rick's most devastating deaths: the death of his willingness to engage with therapy and healing. When he transforms himself into a pickle to avoid family therapy, he's literally choosing to become something inhuman rather than face his emotions. The real death occurs when he rejects Dr. Wong's attempt to help him understand his pain. In that moment, any possibility of healing or growth dies, and Rick commits himself to a path of eternal suffering disguised as scientific pursuit. Number 3. The Memory Rick Disillusion. When Rick enters his own memories to hide from the Galactic Federation, we witness something truly terrifying: the complete disillusion of a consciousness into its component parts. Memory Rick isn't just hiding. He's literally breaking apart into fragments of experiences and traumas. Watching Rick's consciousness scatter like digital snow is profoundly unsettling. It's the death of the self as a coherent entity, replaced by disconnected moments of pain, joy, and regret floating in an endless digital void. Number 2. The Cronenberg Explosion. Let's talk about the death that traumatized an entire fan base. After Rick creates a love potion that turns everyone into Cronenberg monsters, he attempts to fix the situation with a device. But just as Rick twists the screw for the third time, the device violently explodes, instantly killing Rick and Morty in a messy blast. What makes this death devastating isn't just the explosion. It's that another Rick and Morty from a different dimension had to bury their own corpses and take their place. The image of Morty digging a grave for his own mangled body is genuinely haunting. This death established that no version of these characters is safe, and the multiverse couldn't care less about keeping anyone alive. Number 1. The Family Tragedy and the Death of Rick's Soul. The most devastating Rick death isn't his own, it's the death of who he used to be. When Rick Prime murdered his wife Diane and daughter Beth with a bomb, it didn't just kill his family, it killed the loving father and husband Rick once was. This backstory shows us that Rick wasn't always the nihilistic genius we know. He was once a guy who built inventions for his daughter, who had a normal suburban life, who actually cared about people. The bomb that killed Diane and Beth also murdered Rick's capacity for love and trust. What makes this death even more brutal is that Rick spent decades hunting the Rick who did it, becoming obsessed with revenge and killing countless other Ricks in his quest. In a way, the explosion created two victims: his family, who died instantly, and Rick himself, who died slowly over decades of grief and rage. The meaning behind the deaths. What makes Rick's death so impactful isn't the gore, it's what they reveal about his character. He treats his own death as just another problem to solve, but the deaths that really hurt him strip away his identity, purpose, or connections to others. Rick Sanchez proves that being the smartest person alive doesn't make you immortal, just more creative in how you suffer. His deaths remind us that even someone who claims nothing matters can still find ways to hurt when the things that secretly do matter get taken away. The most painful Rick deaths aren't about physical pain. They're about losing meaning, purpose, and connection. They show us that intelligence and power can't protect you from the fundamental pain of existence. What did you think of this breakdown? Which of Rick's deaths hit you the hardest? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite animated shows.